Could you please state your name?
Guadalupe, Alviar.
Okay, and Guadalupe or Lupe? Is that what you go
Lupe.
by? When were you born?
February 16th, 1947,
And where were you born?
right here in Muskegon.
Right in Muskegon?
Born in Muskegon, raised in the Heights.
Raised in the Heights, huh? Okay. Um, what about your parents?
Both my parents came from, one from very, very southern Texas,
Okay.
and the other one from the western side. We've all recently heard about Uvalde.
Yeah,
My mom's family's from that area.
it's from the.
So they were both up here, and they met each other in 1937 and got married in 39.
Okay.
Dad got drafted into the Marine Corps in 42 and spent from 1942 to 1946 in Hawaii
Okay.
as a Marine military policeman.
Wow. Wow. So you come from a military background then.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So what were your parents' occupations?
Dad retired as an electrician from Camel Wine Cannon in 33 years. Mom was a housewife.
She had the hard job.
She had the hard job, but she did a lot of odd things. She was very well known for her cooking ability.
Okay.
But people from, for example, she made tamales every Christmas in Mexican culture. And people would come from Holland, come from Grand Rapids, just to get her cooking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my grandmother back then was alive, and they used to make 600 dozen tamales
Oh
a
wow.
month by hand
Wow.
to local restaurants here and sell them $1 a dozen. And
Sign me up.
and so she was quite the cook, quite the. She had the seamstress. Back in the day and way back, I used to have Frank Lockage in the Heights, which was the big man's culture with the fancy suits, and they were all big size. And she used to make suits at Frank Lockage in the Heights.
Oh, my darn.
And my sisters, she made their dresses, and so she had a lot of skills.
Mhm.
She was a housewife.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned your sister. How many siblings did you have?
One brother, two sisters,
Okay.
and that was the interesting part. Me and my brother are 3 years apart, and then my two sisters are 3 years apart, but there's 12 years between my brother and my oldest sister.
Okay.
So it's like mom and dad raised two boys and then turned around and raised two
I
girls.
raised two girls. So there was four of you total?
Four.
Okay. And you were the
Oldest.
oldest. How did your siblings feel about, well, let me back up just a little bit. When you joined the service, were you enlisted or were you drafted or
I joined.
okay. And when did you join? Remember your date?
April 28th, 1965.
How'd your parents feel about that?
That was a tough time because I had basically given up on school. I can go back now and look at it and say I wasn't learning anything, but I really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was quitting going to some classes, and all of a sudden I got down to the point there was one class I was going to a day, and I would skip the rest of them. And the teacher finally turned around and asked me, he said, "It's no joke. Why is mine the only class you're coming to?" I said, "It's the only one I'm learning." It was English literature.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think I'm learning anything in the other ones. And so I finally got off my butt and I said, even to myself, I said, this is wrong. Uh, so I decided to do something tough with myself, and I said, join the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And so I joined the Marine Corps. I was previously set by my high school counselor to go to Western Michigan. She had me all set, but I started just skipping school, and so I decided to join the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the recruiter come over to the house and he said, you folks need to sign this. And my dad being a former Marine, but he says, listen, if Lupe will finish school, I'll tear this paper up right now. And I said, no, I'm going to the Marine Corps, period. And so I went upstairs to my bedroom, and little did I know that the recruiter, my dad, got drunk. And, you know, like 2 o'clock in the morning, they were both drunk and come into my room and wanted to tear up the papers. And I was pretty insistent. I said, no, I'm going. And that was how my parents felt. My dad wanted me to finish school. Mom wanted me to finish school.
Sure.
I didn't want to.
Yeah. So why the Marine Corps?
My dad was in the Marine Corps, but I chose the Marine Corps because I said I needed something tough on me. I need to get out of this mood I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed something that was tough.
Look,
I heard that was tough, and it was.
Yeah, it was
Every
hard.
bit of it was tough.
Okay. We'll get into some of those details in just a minute. So your folks, from what you explained, felt like they didn't want you to go. They wanted you to stay and finish school, and you were pretty insistent on joining the Marine Corps. How did your brothers and sisters feel?
Well, my sisters were so young they wouldn't have had an opinion.
Okay.
My brother, I don't think he was opposed to it. I don't recall him being opposed to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did any of your siblings end up joining the military at all?
My brother.
Okay. And what branch did he go into?
He wanted to join the Marine Corps so that I would not be able to go to Vietnam. And there's a long story behind that, but he was found medically not fit to be in the Marine Corps. However, they told him that he was going to go to San Diego. They were going to put him in the hospital. They were going to give him some surgery, then put him into boot camp. Somebody screwed up, put him straight into boot camp. He was like 3/4 of the way through, and somebody said, hey, whoa, you belong in the hospital. And the drone instructor said, it's gone this far, and he's done well. Let him finish.
Mm-hmm.
He went on and finished recruit training. Then they told him he wasn't medically fit enough to be in the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
Put that in your head and digest it.
Yeah. Cool.
It doesn't make sense.
Not at all. No.
So he was discharged shortly after completing recruit training.
Okay. So help me understand, just because I don't know, when he signed up so that you couldn't go to Vietnam.
They had passed a law sometime between World War II and Vietnam or Korea, because of the large number of families that lost multiple sons, brothers in World War II. They passed a law that one at a time.
Okay.
So
your brother felt that if he signed up,
I couldn't.
He would go to Vietnam and you wouldn't.
And I wouldn't be able to.
Wow. Wow. How did that hit home with you?
I didn't find out about that way, way later in life.
Oh, okay, okay.
So,
So when you did find out about that, though, I mean, what kind of thoughts went through your head?
it's, uh, my thoughts were a lot of timings would have had to been just right because I probably was a couple of months away from Vietnam anyway,
Yeah, okay,
and he would have been just joining. So the timing, but I did literally go to Vietnam and then later on go back to Thailand. So they might have, he might have been able, if he was successful, he would have prevented me from going back to a danger
going back.
zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow, pretty amazing thing for your brother to do. Yeah, yeah. So you went through. Did you finish high school?
Later,
Later on, you did go back and finish.
and it wasn't my choice. It was the Marine Corps' choice. You will take the GED.
Okay.
And I said, I don't like to be told that I have to do something that I really don't have to do.
Yeah.
But the Marine Corps said, you will take the GED. And so I wound up taking it. And I got 54 credit hours at community college.
Okay. Through the Marine
I
Corps.
did that after I got out.
After you got out. Okay. Was that, were you told to do the 54 hours or no? No, that was on your own then.
That was on my own.
Okay. Okay. So after schooling, then what types of jobs did you
I
hold?
worked for the state.
Oh, did you?
Worked for the state of Michigan, the unemployment office.
Okay.
The Michigan Employment Security Commission.
Cool. How long did you do that for?
22 years.
22 years. Did you retire from there then? Good for you. So when you first went into the military, you enlisted, and after you enlisted, can you explain to me the process of like getting to basic training and what you did? You know, the process leading up to getting to, I'm sorry, arriving at your basic training.
You know, I arrived at in San Diego on an airplane, and you have these drill instructors just constantly putting pressure on you. And the whole idea is the disciplinary thing. And that's what makes the Marine Corps stand out. Is you know, you look at the Marine Corps and its job, and the Army and its job, and the Air Force and its job, and the Navy and its job, and they each have different levels of discipline. But because of the Marine Corps discipline, there was a lot of pressure on everybody to see who would make or break, and a lot of scary stuff in recruit training. But I used to constantly fall back and say, you know, they didn't kill my dad, and I know they're not trying to kill me. Although it looks funny, all I could think of was they're not trying to kill me,
Mm-hmm.
but it was close. For example, I think the funniest thing I ever saw is they put us on a couple of funny things in recruit training, but they put us on our bellies with a rifle, and we had our packs. And it said, on command, you get up and you run. And it was about 50 yards down. And you saw this trench. And it said, you know, the trench is 50 feet deep, and you got to jump over this trench. And it's 8 foot wide. And it's a good jump. And you would see people run and stop at the end because they want to look. But a drill instructor was standing in that hole and would grab them and throw them down, and you'd hear these screams. So I went, and it was only like a 6 foot jump.
Mm-hmm.
And I went running like hell, and I was scared as hell. And I jumped over the thing, and I looked back, and I saw the drone instructors all standing up down there. And they're grabbing people that are scared. And so, there's a lot of strange things, but I used to get letters from my dad every day, and he would say, pretty soon you're going to do this, pretty soon you're going to do that, pretty soon you're going to, and he was right.
Yeah.
I mean, and all these years, recruit training hadn't changed that much from what my dad had to achieve to what I had to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Do you still remember your drill instructor?
I was, I had two different drill instructors, and I just can't remember the name.
Yeah. Can you picture them though?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, yes. I had one of them. They'd all try and find a flaw or make you try and break down. And one of them, I would turn my eyes and look to the right or something. When the command was look straight ahead, and all of a sudden this guy would come back and bite on your earlobe. You didn't know he was there, and all of a sudden somebody's chewing on your earlobe. It was an adventure.
Yeah. What are some of your best memories of basic training?
I think to take a jab at another branch of service, we used to run, I think it was about 8 miles. We used to run down early in the morning to watch to a fence line. And on the other side of the fence was the Navy recruit training. And we would watch them get down there and after running 8 miles and look across the fence. And these guys would exercise for like 10 minutes. A couple of jumping jacks, and about 10 minutes and it was all over with.
Yeah.
That's just so strange.
Was there any comments going through the fence?
No, we weren't allowed to make
Oh, okay. And do you have any bad memories or anything that stands out of basic?
No, I mean, these drill instructors were amazing people. They were all great Marines. A little later on in my service, I actually had my former Iverson. He got promoted up the ranks to an officer, and I reported into this unit later on in life. And I looked at it. You always read the bulletin board, and the commanding officer, R. Iverson. I said, can't be. It was.
It
my
was.
former drill instructor. No.
Did he remember you?
Oh, yes.
Did he? He wasn't the one that chewed on your ear, was it? No.
No, I was a junior drill instructor.
When you went into the service, did you leave any, other than your parents or siblings, did you leave anybody behind? Pets, girlfriends, anything like that? No.
It was all baseball, football, basketball.
Yeah.
And girls sweating. Yeah.
Not in the picture yet.
No.
Yeah. Do you remember how you got to your initial point of entry when you joined?
Actually, when I joined,
Yeah.
we had to go through Detroit and take a entrance exam and a physical.
Okay.
And I was standing there with everybody else, and the guy comes up to me. He says, this Marine comes up to me, and he says, I was big. I didn't think I was that fat, but I was a big guy. I've always been a big guy. And he says, why don't you go home and take the rest of the summer and lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds? And I said, no, I'll just go right over there and join the Air Force. Boom, he got me back
He got you
right
back.
away. And then I took this exam, and all of a sudden somebody comes up. Who's Alviar? And I was scared. This guy's yelling at the top of his mouth. I said, me, sir. That's the highest score I ever saw in my life. I thought the hardest question on there was, what's your name? I didn't think the questions were that difficult.
Yeah. But you did well on the test.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So from there, you catch a plane out of Detroit and
Okay.
land in San Diego.
Okay. And so then when you went through basic, you go through how many weeks of just regular training?
It was 16.
16 weeks. And when you're done with that training, are you a Marine?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
You are a Marine.
You are a Marine at that time. How did that make you feel when you got through training?
When you're on that, what they call the grinder, or it's a level surface everybody parades on. We used to call it the grinder, but down in San Diego, geez, it's so hot.
Yeah.
And he comes off that asphalt, and you're marching with everybody there, graduation day, and the Marine Corps band's there. You know, all the guests who can make it are there.
Sure. Was your family able to come out and see you graduate? No. Yeah. How'd your dad feel?
Never ask him.
No. I just wonder because he went through that, how he might feel about his son going there. So after you went through your initial 16 weeks, did the Marine Corps send you to any specialized training?
While I was in recruit training, during that period of time, they give you a series of aptitude tests. And so I took the test, and this sergeant calls me up and he says, Private, upon graduation, you're going to data processing school in Norfolk, Virginia. It's 1965. I don't know what the hell he was talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't have the slightest idea. So I wrote Dad a letter, and I said, I'm going to Norfolk, Virginia, data processing school. Well, some of the people were cooks, some were bakers, some were candlestick makers, truck drivers, infantry, you name it, clerks. And we were all there on graduation day. And I mean, you're talking about basically about 1,200 recruits all graduated at the same time.
Yeah.
Different platoons, different series. And they made the announcement. No matter what your MOS is going to be, MOS, Military Occupational Specialty, you are all going to artillery school in 29 Palms, California, out in the desert. It's right near Palm Springs. And I said, well, there goes data processing. So whatever data processing. So the guys that were going to be cooks and bakers and candlestick makers, every one of us were artillery.
Mm-hmm.
The Marine Corps had found out because of the Vietnam War that they hadn't had an artillery school since Korea. And they were real short on their. That's how good the Marine Corps is. They can do anything they want to.
Mm-hmm.
So we all got on a bus and we went up to 29 Palms, California. But we were uh, up there, and this big burly gunnery sergeant come out and said, "I need a volunteer." About 20 of us raised our hand. I mean, I wouldn't do anything. I had nothing else to do. And he says, "I need an intelligence clerk." So, oh, this is after we finished artillery school.
Okay. Okay.
We went up to 29 Palms because we were all artillery people. Now we're not only Marines, we were all artillery people.
Mm-hmm.
And 29 Palms was a major base for artillery in the Marine Corps. So I go up there, and this big burly gunnery sergeant says, "I need a volunteer," and I stuck my hand up. And he interviewed all 22 of us, and he said, "I need an intelligence clerk." And he said, "One of you three, at the end of the month, before we go to Vietnam, it's going to be my intelligence clerk." It wound up being me. So we went. Here's another strange story as far as mixtures. My dad left San Diego on his way to the Pacific War, World War II. He got in Hawaii, and a general come aboard ship and said, "I want the first 15 men on the alphabet." And they made them all MPs. Everybody else went to war.
Went to war. Yeah.
I left San Diego thinking pretty damn sure I'm going to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So we left there, and we had gun batteries with us. And we got to Hawaii, and a general come aboard ship, and he says, 8-inch, you're going to Da Nang, and 5.5s, you're going to Phubai. "Oh, headquarters battery? You guys are going to Okinawa." We started a brand new unit in Okinawa. So from there, I spent 12 months just in Okinawa.
Just in Okinawa.
In intelligence. So everybody else went to war, except we spent 12 months in Okinawa, which was fun.
Mm-hmm. Let's circle back just a little bit, if we could, to, I just want to learn a little bit more about what happened and what you learned when you were in artillery school.
Basically, they taught us how to operate and fire a 105 howitzer gun.
Okay. So did you learn like all aspects, how to break it
How
down?
to load them,
Okay.
how to fire them. But in the meantime, since they hadn't had a school in the ages, we had to clean out, make classrooms, and all this waiting time. We had to wait for instructors to get there because they were taking guys that were in artillery that were due to get out and said, "Oh, you can't get out of the Marine Corps now. We're going to extend you involuntarily to be instructors at the school." And with those pissed off characters who didn't really want to teach us.
Yeah.
They just wanted to go home because their time had already expired.
Mm-hmm.
But they were forced to extend their tour to be teachers.
To train you guys on how to operate those
They
weapons.
were unhappy people.
Yeah, I imagine they were. So after that artillery school, then you went into the
29 Palms.
Okay.
I probably spent 2 months there preparing for this long journey of equipment to go from 29 Palms, California, all the way down to San Diego. There we loaded all the things on ship. Went to Hawaii. Then from Hawaii, I went to Vietnam. We dropped off one gun battery. Then we stopped at Da Nang, dropped off another gun battery, and then and the captain of the ship was real smart. Because if you serve 5 days in Vietnam, you can get the Vietnam Service Medal. No. Yes, 5 days in Vietnam, you get the Vietnam Service Medal. but he carried it over to 2 different months, and we were all eligible for combat pay.
Okay.
And then we went to Okinawa.
Okay.
He intentionally did that.
Okay. Well, that was almost a thank you.
Yeah, we never left ship, and we got
Right.
combat pay for a month.
Yeah. You could always use that, right? Yeah. So when you say you dropped off a gun battery, what would that consist of?
Let's say in the five fives, there was probably 30 great big cannons.
Okay.
Same with the 8-inch. There was about 30 of them down there loaded on these ships, and we just
Pick them up and drop them off.
drop them off at each
Was there?
place.
Did people go with them? Did servicemen go with them?
Oh yeah,
Okay, so they had that was an
those
entire
are all
crew.
the guys that went to war, and
Okay.
we
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but in that particular instance, you were just part of dropping these the
yeah, I
cannons
mean, we
off.
could
Yeah.
see Vietnam. It was right there.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
You know, but and another totally funny story. All of us Marines were issued green T-shirts, camouflage bases, and so the captain of the ship was looking at his men on board with all these white T-shirts. So he gave this command for everybody to bring up 2 sets of T-shirts on deck, and these great big vats that they cook in, they made great Kool-Aid, and they had to dunk their shirts. So it'd be camouflage.
Yeah.
They got out there after those shirts dried, and they got out there on deck and were wearing these purple shirts. In that 100-degree heat, it was just like tie-dye.
Oh no.
It was.
But he wanted those guys to have purple shirts.
Any kind of camouflage you could give them.
Yeah.
Like somebody's going to stand out on shore and shoot at you.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay. That's interesting. So when you went to Okinawa, what was your duties when you were in Okinawa?
I spent 13 months there as an intelligence analyst. And so what we were doing is basically, it sort of ties in with, I was in intelligence, and every morning I had to go down to communications and get all these top secret documents and confidential documents and bring them back for my colonel and sort them by importance so that he could see them. And I used to prepare maps so that he would go make a presentation and say, intelligence, our job was to study the enemy and its capabilities, the weather, and the terrain. I mean, are we going to a bunch of hills? Are we going to flatland? Are we going to trees? So we had to study it. I had to learn how to figure out the tides. So that I spent all that time in Okinawa just passing on material. That was the intermediate that I would prepare our colonel for the information, which sort of brings me to current events because I saw what's happening down with our former president. We had a top secret document that had turned up missing, and I had signed for it at one time, and there's about 4 other clerks, they're friends of mine, that had signed for it at one time or another. Well, one of my friends was discharged and was home for 2 weeks. It wasn't military folks, it was federal agents that come back and put us in the spot. They're looking for this top secret document.
Mm-hmm.
I said, whoa, I signed for it, but you see my signature there where I turned it in.
Mm-hmm.
and they interviewed us like crazy. And to come to find out that somebody had said, this thing is so old it doesn't need to be top secret anymore. We're going to downgrade it to confidential. He downgraded it to confidential, filed it in the confidential, but did not do the paperwork to take it out of the top secret branch.
Okay.
And that's why. And it took him a whole month to count document by document by document and figured out they had one too many in the confidential. And that was the top secret document. But to talk about how this is no joke when they tell you on TV, that's serious business.
Yeah.
They brought my buddy back to Okinawa after he was discharged.
Wow.
And they put him under the gun. And we all had signed for that particular document one time or another. But basically, that's what I did. I knew all the things that were going on in Vietnam, unit locations, and of course, our main concern was the enemy, its capabilities, what kind of equipment do they have, how many people do they have.
So did you have to do the research then and gather all that information together for your CO?
We would get. We had people in Vietnam who would feed us information on different units. So I knew everything was going on, and I enjoyed it so much in Okinawa. I at the time I could speak better Japanese than English almost. And I said, geez, I want to stay here another 6 months. The Marine Corps gave you the option to extend your tour when you were on a 13-month tour, 6 months. So I said, damn it, I'm going to extend my tour. I'm going to stay over here another 6 months. But the Marine Corps changed its mind. They said, no, you don't extend your tour unless you go to Vietnam first.
And that was after you had agreed to extend it?
No, that was just before they changed the rules.
Okay.
And I said, shit, I gotta go to Vietnam. And so, working in intelligence, I knew exactly where people were going and what they were going to do. And there was this unit called 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, that was leaving Okinawa and going to Vietnam. But they were going to go to the Philippines and spend a couple months in the Philippines. And I said, geez, why don't I just join that unit? I'll get my boss to send me that unit. And I'm going to take weeks and weeks to get down to the Philippines by ship. Then they're going to spend 2 months in the Philippines. So by the time I get to Vietnam, I'll only have a month or 2 to serve. Piece of cake. Well, it wasn't a piece of cake. We had just left Okinawan ship, and they diverted us to Vietnam on an emergency. We were what was called a battalion landing team. BLT 2-3, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. So what we wound up doing, in a sense, was living off ship. We'd go from one hot spot, spend a week, 2 weeks there, come back to ship, spend a day or 2 on ship, go to another hot spot. So we didn't have a permanent location in Vietnam. Come back to ship, go to another hot spot, and we actually, the last I heard, I haven't kept on this lately, but we had the record for the most what was the term she used? And the most battle in a 13-month period. Campaigns, most campaigns are 13-month, and a 6-month period. than any Marine unit ever.
Wow.
But we just went from one hot spot to another. So my whole thought of this is the unit I'm going to join and this is all they're going to, that all went to hell.
That didn't work.
That went to hell in a handbasket.
Wow.
I mean, we were at Quezon and we had 75 people killed and 225 wounded in the first 3 days. I mean, and this was before the siege of Quezon in '68. We were there in '67 when we thought something might be going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent us out there and they just, that was
Yeah.
hell.
Is it okay if I ask you some specifics about some of those hot spots and where you were and what you did? When you were, of course, you had life on the ship. How would they take you from, being on the ship to these particular hot spots?
Helicopter.
You'd be flying a chopper.
Yeah, and these were all helicopter ships.
Okay.
They were all former World War II ships, the Yorktown, the Princeton, the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
These were all former World War II ships that they loaded and made available for helicopters.
Yeah. And then, so they would take you guys in by helicopter. How many of you would go at a time, or did that differ?
We'd all go. It's just a matter of what priority. I was in the command unit, so I was probably one of the last ones out.
Okay. And then, when you went, was it the people you went with? I mean, did you know them well? Were you guys like buddies and friends?
Well, you had to work with these people every day, and it was always strange. You always had this funny sense that you didn't want to lose a friend. You knew them, you worked with them. Because I was in intelligence, we would get visitors all the time. And the colonel would look at me and say, "Hey, Alviar, go take so-and-so, whoever this VIP was, take them up the front lines, let them look at, see what's going on." So a lot of times I got pulled out, and I was got moved up to front in different lines. And I remember one time I got pulled out, and we were always surrounded by companies, so we always had protection. But there's not a lot of protection when artillery hits. I mean, they had hit our command unit, and several of my friends were hurt. But I was taking this stupid VIP to see other things, and we'd gone back to the ship, and I said, "I want to get back out there. I heard about it." I said, "I want to get back out." "You can't, not in this plane. You can't." Well, these planes were in such a hurry, and I wanted to get on that plane because I knew exactly where that helicopter was going. But apparently the pilot had asked, "Just give me half a tank." And they filled him up, and right over the side he went. And that would have been the plane I was on.
Yeah.
I think about that every once in a while, but yeah, I had some friends who lost some limbs, and one of them lost a leg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you were flown out to these hotspots, if you would, could you share with us like one of the most harrowing moments that you had?
The helicopters were a prime target because they're slow and they're big. And the Vietnamese used to love to shoot at helicopters. I mean, and they're not well protected. And there's several times that I had to, literally jumping into a moving target. This thing, the pilots want to get the hell out of there because there's gunfire.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several times that I've jumped on the back of officers just to get in the damn helicopter. And then I'd think about it and I said, good, if a bullet comes through the bottom, me. But no, that stuff happened. Fortunately, I never did really get hurt.
Yeah.
I never got shot. And then when I schools, and the very first question is, kids would ask is, how many did you kill? I said, I don't know. I said, I've shot at them. Whether they died or not, I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've had to shoot. But fortunately, not a lot. Because where I was at, I was in the command headquarters.
You were more in the center, I guess, from the way you explained it. And,
Yeah, and we always had 4 companies around us.
Okay.
And one company was always assigned to be permanently with us.
Mm-hmm.
So there was always 3 companies floating around.
Around you.
So.
Yeah. Wow, thank you. Do you remember any times that when you were there, that were maybe humorous or light?
I guess I've tried to. I was very active in an organization called Vietnam Veterans of America.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the VFW, DAV, American Legion, whatever. Supports veterans activities. And we had a large chapter here in Muskegon. And one of the guys in the organization needed a Marine uniform or wanted one. I said, yeah, damn it. I says, I've got one in the closet upstairs, buried somewhere. Come on over. Well, he was a librarian in the Muskegon public school system. So my kids knew him. And he's talking with my kids, and in the meantime, I'm trying to tell my wife where to look. And then after he leaves, my kids come over to me and say, how come you always talk about the funny stuff? Or no. He said, all this guy did was talk about the war, but you never talk about it. I said, I just try and remember the funny stuff. I didn't like the fact that he talked about killings and stuff with my kids. I didn't like it. But you try and remember whatever funny times there were.
Yeah. Do you stay in touch with anybody from your service days?
Two of them are dead. My unit, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, has a reunion every year. And I haven't been able to make the last 2. I did make 3 of them down in Charleston, South Carolina, and down in San Antonio, and the other one in Colorado Springs. And so those were people I was with. There's only, they would have like 60, 70, 80 people at the most. And there's only one that I actually knew. And there's another guy that was the mailman. He said, yeah, I remember your name. Yeah. Alviar, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or Lupe, that's kind of,
But I haven't met anybody in that group that outside that group, I have met some people that served with that group through my connections in Vietnam Veterans of America.
Mm-hmm.
For 15 years, I served on the National Board of Directors in Washington, D.C. for that group.
Wow.
So I would travel they had me all over. I mean,
Yeah.
they sent me all over the country, and for quite a few years, I was in charge of all the folks in Indiana, Ohio, uh, and Illinois and Michigan. So I had charge of all 4 states and
Hmm.
go to all their dinners and functions and speeches and all that crap.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah, and that's where you get to meet a lot of people, and that's where I saw some people that basically have a neurological disorder, and nobody knows why, and they trip and they stumble.
Hmm. That's too bad. So after your time that you thought was going to be great, it didn't turn out quite that well. Um, and you were with this battalion landing team. Where did you go from there?
From there, I came back to Camp Lejeune, Vietnam, and I was there for a couple years. And I did go to Norfolk, Virginia, but I went there for photo interpretation school
Okay.
because I was in intelligence, and we used to have to interpret photos and see, is that really a building there, or is that camouflaged? Or so I did wind up going to Norfolk,
Okay.
Virginia, for photo operations school. From there, I went to California. That's where my drill instructor was in charge. I was with the engineering unit,
Hmm.
and from there, I went to Thailand, and that was an interesting place because I really didn't know what was going on, and it was a military base with no running water,
Oh wow.
and we were out in tents, and I think the second day I was there, second or third day, not much more than that. I was in this four-holer, an outdoor potty, and this pilot was in there. He says, "Sure is hot out there." What did I say? Because it was hot, it was like 100. We're in the jungle.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hot, sir?" He says, "Yeah, we're dropping those 500 pounders within 100 yards of the front line." Sir, front line? I thought I'd left Vietnam and all that other
Yeah.
stuff behind me. And what they had in Thailand, where we were at, is a Marine Air Wing with fighter jets there, and they were going up
Okay.
bombing places. I was just hoping it wasn't too close to the
Yeah.
front line, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Okay.
But I wound up spending time in 6 months out in Thailand.
6 months in Thailand. And then after that, where did you go?
Japan for
Okay.
another 6 months, and loved it in Japan. Then I came back, and Paris Island, South Carolina, and the Marine Corps during that period was trying to automate itself. So they had created what they called a unit diary. So if you got promoted, you got transferred, you went on leave, something happened to you, you went to jail. Everything that happened of significance to you had to be recorded now electronically. Now, for all these years, the Marine Corps was manual.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they called was a unit diary. And they sent me to Paris Island to do this unit diary. And there was only like 5 of them in the Marine Corps. And I got to work with a master sergeant who actually created the system.
Oh, wow.
And he taught me everything. And I was getting calls from all over the world. How do you take care of this? How do you do that? Because my boss would come in the morning early, work through lunch, then right after lunch he'd go in there and change clothes and grab a pistol. And I said, "What are you grabbing that pistol for?" So I'm going fishing. What are you fishing for? He says, "No, I don't fish for this. This is for the snakes." So he would always leave about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and people wanted to talk to him to answer these questions. And fortunately, he had taught me well. And at that point in my life, I was one of the better ones at that system. And there was only like 5 places I could have gone in the whole Marine Corps with the knowledge I had. But I had charge of units from Maine to bottom of Texas, the whole East Coast,
Sure.
all the way down, all the reserve units, because they report activities on the reserve members who showed up and who didn't, who may have gotten promoted, whatever.
That's really neat.
And so if we caused problems, or a problem was caused, it would go on your pay record and screw up a pay record, and then you really get somebody mad.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
imagine.
that's what I used to resolve a lot of pay problems.
Wow. So after you did that, and what, I'm sorry, what was it they called that again? It dated, it wasn't really.
No, it was unit diary. It was
Unit
a
diary.
system, but I was still a admin specialist.
Okay.
So
Okay. And after that, what did you do?
it was during that time that I was at Paris Island, South Carolina, and my family was there. And I had 3 kids, and at the time they could all run a mile without stopping, and they were like 3, 4, and 5 years old.
Mm-hmm. So did you? I'm sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. I missed something here. You say your family was there and you had little kids. Did you get married when you were in the Marine Corps?
Oh yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, back when I was in Camp Lejeune before I went to California.
Okay.
I went to. But I used to run because that's all. Run.
Mm-hmm.
And I even got the kids to where they could all 3, 4, and 5 years old. They could all run a mile without stopping. And all of a sudden, I would fall down and skin my hands and skin my knees. That was going on. And I did that about 4 more times. And it wasn't like day after day. It was like last month, this month, next month.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going on. And as of today, as of you and I sitting here, they have not discovered what's wrong with me.
Uh-huh.
I've had 7 different neurologists tell me I have 6 different conditions. I've been diagnosed with ALS, with MS, with ataxia, with spinal cerebellar degeneration of unknown type. I've been diagnosed with, my original diagnosis was familial spastic paraplegia. And at that time, my grandmothers were both still alive, and neither one of them had any recollection of any family members having leg problems or anything else. And they diagnosed it as a family thing.
So that's too bad.
So whether I was injured in Vietnam or
who
knows?
Yeah. So what?
I always tell people, I drank the water. I was in areas before they sprayed. I was in areas while they sprayed. And I was in areas after they sprayed.
Mm-hmm.
but I don't really consider that important. I drank the water. Used to take the river water, take the military halazone tablets, put them in there. Dad used to send me pre-sweetened Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Pour some of that in there, shake it all up. That was our hydration.
Yeah.
River water, halazone tablets, and pre-sweetened Kool-Aid.
Yeah. That's what you had. Yeah.
But as of today, nobody's figured out. It's been slow. It's degenerative, but it's been slow.
Yeah.
From 1977, when I was discharged, until '84, I was on my feet. Fell down a lot.
Yeah.
But finally in '84, I decided to go in a wheelchair. Figured I could go more places with it than without it.
Without it, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
Yeah. So when you were discharged, did you receive a medical discharge?
medical discharge, because I was on active duty,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to be fit for duty on air, land, or sea, which that's the authorization they give you to discharge you. So I come home, and I really didn't know what I was going to do, but Dad had a big house, and I told Dad, I said, well, I haven't gotten a check yet. Won't get a check from the military for a while, so I think I'll go down to welfare. And then since I'm on disability, I might as well go down to Social Security. And since I'm unemployed, I might as well go to the employment office. Dad said, you're going to wind up working at one of them. 2 weeks later, I was hired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing because the job service has these notices. They send people, come on in, we got an impossible job for you. And the welfare at that time, people in welfare were hooked up with the people at the MESC. And so I actually got a notice from this gal in welfare. It says, come on in, we got a possible job for you to look at. So I came in and I talked to her, and she says, it's a part-time clerical job, working in a school summer job program. And I says, I don't think so. I got 3 kids and a wife that I'm trying to support. And you want to put me at the dollar over minimum wage? I'm going to turn that down. Oh, you turn that down, we're going to take you off welfare. I says, okay. I'm comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked out of the office and I went home and I got the same damn card from the guy in the MESC. I said, I can't believe it. You come on in, because they use the same system.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait till Friday at 4 o'clock and then I'll go see them. I can't do anything on Friday at 4 o'clock. I went in there Friday at 4 o'clock, and that was actually the last day that the job I got was posted for. Had I not gone in that Friday at 4 o'clock, I would have never even gotten it.
Wow.
They looked at me and said, oh my God, you're exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And had you not come in today, this guy would have gotten it.
22 years later. Good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. So with you then, you worked for those 22 years. If you reflect back on your military career and your career, is there anything that you'd like to talk about, really, that we haven't talked about, or you haven't had a chance to talk about, or
You know, I worked for the MENC 22 years and sat on the National Board of Directors of Vietnam Veterans America for 15 years and traveled around the country and talking to Vietnam veterans and their experiences. And even so, I still sat on the Muskegon County Veterans Advisory Board for 25 years. And you see all the issues. And I think I've always been concerned that veterans just don't know enough. You know, I wish they would get more involved, but a lot of people, I just want to get out. You know, they're in such a hurry to get out of whatever branch of service they were in
mm-hmm.
that I don't care about it anymore. And it was always tough with the Vietnam veterans because 50% of them thought we should have been there, and 50% of them said, no way. So, you know, there's half of them right there don't want anything to do with anybody.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting, but there's a lot of things that are available for veterans other than home loans.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of services. Muskegon does a great job locally here of serving veterans. We just need more veterans to look and see what's available for them.
Sure. That's some great advice. That's really good advice. When you think forward to, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, somebody's watching this. What would you like the kids of today, what would you like to say to them?
Well, 20 years from now, I think they'll be more fortunate than we were. We were more hands-on. Even now, not 20 years from now, but even now, there's shooting weapons into foreign countries from the middle of the United States. I mean, they've got everything so upgraded and technological. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen in 20 years, but I don't think we're ever going to be in a situation again where we have to have hands-on experience.
Mm-hmm.
We're just too advanced for it. And I hope 20 years from now that nuclear weapons are just gone, period. We never have that threat ever again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a Marine, and I even hate rifles or guns or anything. And that's unusual for a Marine to say that, but I've seen what they can do.
Right.
I can see the damage. When they talk about, even today, they talk about the shootings that are happening with all these people with 223 bullets. And those little bullets would tear up a body like crazy. It's what's happening all over, and I just hope all of that's gone.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm grateful you're doing this.
Well, you know what, we're really, really grateful not only for your service, but for your participation in this project, because there is, a long time from now, somebody's going to watch this and they're going to learn. So I want to thank you for your time. You're coming in again. Thank you for your service. I really appreciate it.
Well, I bet you it was about off the record, but
Okay.